this meeting to order, practice 7. First up, adoption of agenda. Everybody's read through it, anything to add or?
Got it, yep.
Councillor Courage, movement to accept. All in favor? Carried. Regular meeting, June 25th. The minutes, did anybody find anything in there? Everything okay? Get a motion to accept. Councillor Schultz. All in favor? Carried. Okay, first up, we have the Rocky Mountain Drift Club. Jason Toon, front and center.
Good evening.
Good evening. You know everybody at the table?
I think I've met most of you at some point.
Anna Courage.
Jason Toon.
Hi.
Yeah.
Gavin and I spent lots of time together with
Yeah, I love that shirt, man.
Craig,
Yeah.
Keith, and Lise.
Yeah. Awesome.
The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Okay, so we wrote a letter to you all. I hope you've had a minute to read it and review kind of what we're proposing. Just a quick review. Rocky Mountain Drift Club is operating in Claresholm for our 3rd season this year. We've had some unexpected growth. We've caught some attention from all over Western Canada. Our membership has grown every year that we've been operating. We've had members come as far away as Ontario and Vancouver to come and participate with us. We are the only spot in Western Canada that is dedicated to drifting and the sport of drifting from a grassroots perspective. There are places where they hold competition, but we invite everybody to come, whether they're just starting out, first timers, which some of your kids have been, and all the way to the pros where they're bringing, $100,000 cars out. And so Claresholm has kind of grabbed everybody's attention. We did participate a little bit last year in Fair Days, but we kind of got started late. And so this year we would like to jump in a little earlier. I know it's not that early, but our season started a little late with the long winter. So what we're proposing is we'd like to participate in Fair Days as much as possible this year. We would like to we're planning to participate in the parade as well as the car show. But we would like to do an in-town demonstration if it's possible. Last year with the old town council, we tried to get it done quick enough, but we just couldn't get the stuff done quick enough to get it all approved. So we figured we'd try for it this year too. So we proposed 2 or 3 different spots within town that we thought might work. There's a few things to consider in choosing a spot. Crowd control, the actual quality of the road. Some of these cars are really low, and so they need to be in fairly decent shape. Crowd control and basic blocking off streets and things like that. Does anybody have any questions on what you read in the letter and what we proposed?
Well, I'm just curious about the timing of it, because there's a tremendous amount of events already scheduled on that day, and you'd want to have as many people at yours as possible, as well as the other stuff that's already slated.
That was kind of a juggling point for us too. Part of the reason why we wanted to tuck it right up against the parade, as close to the parade time ending as possible, is because the crowds are already kind of in that area. Also, Jason Hemingway has booked that section of road off for the next hour after the parade, so it's already closed as far as that goes. And the barricades and stuff would already be down there in place because of the parade. So we would do some setup beforehand, getting the barricades and things in place that would kind of suit us. We're going to run, our plan was to set up electric fence posts and run that big heavy bale of twine, and then we'll have guys in high vis vests with megaphone. Everybody stays behind that, and that would be our barricade, would be 10 or 15 feet back from the street, probably 15 or 20 feet back from the street. And we'll have people in place, security in place, to make sure people aren't crawling under the fence.
So what's the electric fence for?
It's not
It's not
electric.
electrified.
It's just,
Just
Oh.
the poles.
it's just posts, it's plastic
Oh,
posts, you
just
can
the
just
poles.
step them into the ground and
Okay.
Yeah.
it'll help us put a,
Petition.
yeah, it's
Okay.
just to help us put.
I can find out.
Yeah, well, you could do that, but
Make it
The
interesting.
only, I don't know, I'd have to check on it, but I don't think you could use the 520 for a test track.
I don't know, Jason and I discussed that and I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know either.
he just said that it's already shut down, so maybe. If that's not a possibility, we have those other locations over by the
Well, the one
the
by
hockey rink.
the one over by the car wash on Second Street East would be the one that would work. The other one you've got is.
I like the
Harvest
square.
That's private property, we would have to.
But
I
that's-
know, that's my favorite one, actually.
Where
Wouldn't
is
that-
Harvest Square?
That would be sweet, but
If you approach the owners of Harvest
Duplexes.
Square.
we've had
Street
initial
at the end
talk
of
to him.
4th Street?
Oh, okay.
And he was kind of like, not really up on that, but it might be different if we went to him and said, look, the town is asking us to approach and see if we can use your bit of street. That actually would be the best place for crowd control as well, because there's only 2 accesses and 2 points in. We could kind of keep people,
There's no houses there yet.
no houses there yet. It's clean street,
Brand new.
brand new thing,
Yeah, the thing is, it's private property.
but it's
It's
private
just-
property. That's
Well,
the
my
issue.
experience is
It's
it's
not turned over to the
so
town yet.
loud. It's a great, great thing. I think it's brilliant, and I love that it's way out there, because on certain days, you
Yeah.
can hear it really clearly in town. So I'm imagining with all of the children, and I'm thinking that mostly so many kids that are gonna be down there from the parade, already going to planned activities, and then this,
Yeah.
crazy screech that is, how long is the demo? 45 minutes?
Maximum 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It could be an issue for that. Part of our program too is we're gonna hand pick the guys that come. Because
How many?
honestly, for 30 minutes, we'd have probably 4 cars, so
I would
4 to
Like
6, something.
for isolation, personally, I kinda like the east side, cause you got big vacant land on one side and the residences, or the residential set way back on the other side.
Yeah.
Where's
And-
the east side?
And you're having
The
to
very first one.
funnel people out there to go and see that, so what's the difference between funneling them out to the airport and doing the demo up there?
Just visibility, the airport's not gonna get them where you hear them in town, I think you would attract more people.
Yeah, last time we did it out there, we had about 500 people show up, some roughly. I just feel like it would be double that if we had it in town. That's
Well,
really it.
and you're gonna have an event out there,
Yeah, well, as soon as our event is, the demo's done, we're heading out.
yeah, so you'll get still that overflow
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
So,
And-
hmm.
Oh, sorry, well, I was
The-
just. you go
The,
ahead.
my concern would be the safety, of course, like Lee said, there's gonna be kids and people everywhere. But correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you guys have issues with pavement with these cars going around? So
I
I wouldn't wanna
haven't.
see any of our streets.
No, we haven't had any problems with pavement. The only problem we have is that the pavement's in rough condition. It's hard on the cars.
49th
So-
Avenue?
That's that section in
Yeah,
there.
that would be my concern, is we've already got rough roads now. I mean, I think the Drift Club is a great idea as well. Safety and road-wise, that would be my concern.
Second Avenue was built as an elevated road, so it's built to a heavier standard than, well, 520 is too, but I just don't think 520 is.
They're
When
gonna
I
close.
flipped through it, I liked location 1, cause then you can, again, Petro's property's on this side, it's private, but you can keep everybody on one side of the street. You don't have to worry about, you can control that, and I don't know what you're thinking about for times, but with all the stuff you have, are you thinking before the
Okay,
before the
so
parade starts?
so really,
No, after.
it would be after the parade. No matter what we do, it'll be after the parade because we're gonna have cars in the parade as well.
Right,
So we could be a little more flexible with time if we're gonna do it away from this area over here. The only reason to do that was because of the timing of the road shut off. If we go over there, it will take us a little more time to set up because we'll have to move barricades from this neighborhood over that way. We can work around that and, yeah, and the street. We'd probably try and keep everybody watching on the west side of that street.
road.
Yeah,
That's
so,
what Craig was mentioning.
so, yeah.
keep it up, yeah.
So we could adjust the time that way if
1
we
o'clock or something.
over there.
Well, See, I know the afternoon there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff booked.
That's why I'm thinking prior.
Prior to
The other thing we
parade.
could-
Prior to the parade,
When
because
does the parade
That'd be a
end?
great way to kick off the parade.
it's
We're
before
here.
everything, right?
Yeah,
And they
we
got
need to line
time
up
to
about it.
make their way to the parade, right? And then you're not taking away from any of the events that we already have. Not, I shouldn't say taking away, but you're not,
Competing.
Compete.
You would
Compete.
get
It is, yeah.
a tremendous amount of turnout
But
if
the
you did
problem with the
beforehand.
parade is, I know myself, I'll be down at Whitehead's half an hour before, 45 minutes before it starts.
Yeah.
I mean, you go down the road, everybody's there an hour early, so. Like, what time's the parade usually end, about 11:30?
Starts at 11:30 or quarter to 12. Starts at 11.
So if you were to move yours to say 1 or 1:30, that would give kickoff to everything else, and then yours is only half hour, and all the other events would, I mean, people are gonna flow right back.
Yeah.
And there's no events at the arena, right?
The arena's,
Yeah.
done, it's out of the commission.
That was kind of why that area was thought was
That's why I
good
kinda
too.
like that one better.
yeah, I like that area, I just.
And it
Wow.
would keep
I
people
don't
more
like-
central, but still have some separation.
Yeah.
I still missed how you're gonna figure out that the roads aren't gonna get wrecked. I
Well,
know
the
you
thing
said
is,
the
other
roads
one,
are
I think it's a
bad.
heavier road, the pavement on Second
Well,
is a
it was
denser.
built as an elevator road. so-
I drive semi-trucks up and down that road that are 110,000 pounds. These little cars aren't gonna hurt that road at all,
No.
so.
Marion, you'd like to speak?
I just have a couple of questions
Sure.
that I haven't heard addressed here. One would be parking of the number of spectators, where would they be parked? And second would be, where would you stage the spectators, because that is private property.
Yeah.
We don't have jurisdiction on.
No, you would need written permission from.
Yeah, we would, Petro is a big fan of what we're doing, and so I don't think he'd be a problem. And to be honest with you, I haven't talked to him yet just because it wasn't my first choice. But, being if that's the choice that we're gonna go with, I'll visit with him immediately and see if, you know, I don't think he would. But.
I think, like, we don't have time to wait for other, I mean, normally we do not make decisions. of-
Yeah, I understand.
But we don't have time to, so I think that
What was
Wasn't
wrong
awesome.
with Harvest Square?
it's
It's
private
private.
property.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to be
Oh.
there. That would be my very, very,
But
Who
it's
owns it?
also, that
First.
road's built to the lightest standard.
very, very
Like
first
Harrisburg.
choice.
Calgary.
Thinnest pavement
I
in
get it.
town.
So have you
It's nice.
spoken to the guy who owns this? It's private property. Will he let you?
That's what he's saying, he's
yeah,
gonna
we-
go see him.
No, we've already talked to him, and he's like, nah, you know, I'm not really
Well, this
interested.
pavement
Oh,
is,
okay.
is built to a real light
So-
standard, cause they don't expect heavy equipment in
Right.
there.
And I'm just thinking for safety, I know second probably isn't ideal, but you can corral everybody to one side of the road, you don't need.
Yeah.
On 49th.
On the
Second.
Second.
Oh, on Second.
Yeah.
Over by the,
And then you
First
make sure
option.
there's nobody allowed on the other side.
Right, you can have people standing, if you address it to Mike, no,
That's
people
best.
stand on the south side of the arena or the car wash and you park on the north side, and you don't have people walking amongst, I mean, I'm sure you guys can hash that out.
Yeah.
That's how
Well,
I feel, and then I'm still strong with before everything starts, and you're not interfering with everything. You'll have all the kids, you'll have everybody's, if you get before everything else starts, you'll have everybody's attention, other than the people that wanna walk through and look at the floats.
Sometimes there's parade start 10.
11.
Oh, you have lots of time before then.
Would you be
9:30
willing
to
to go
10?
10 in the
9:30 to
morning?
11, but people.
we'll go whenever you guys say it's okay.
I'm just thinking
partial
just,
to that as well before I
you know-
make.
Well, how
my
about-
decision.
You're gonna have to
Yeah.
you
do
could
it.
promote the hell of, I mean, the
The
heck
only
out
way
of
we're
it.
gonna find out is make a motion to support it on that road at 10 o'clock, and we'll see how it flows.
We'll make it happen no matter what you guys are,
It depends on how it flows down
asking
too.
us to do,
Okay,
right?
9:30.
I make a motion to,
Just wait a second. If you made it for 9:30, that would give them an hour. They say it's 45 minutes. That gives the people enough time to get back for the parade, because the parade starts at 11. 9:30 to 10:30, gives them 10:30 till quarter to 11
It's
or
only
whatever.
half hour long.
Oh.
Yeah,
thought you
we
said
don't,
45
well,
minutes.
45 minutes at the most if we have to change tires or whatever, but
Yeah.
30 minutes of car time.
I'm just thinking of the people. You wanna give them
That's
enough
probably
time to
how
get
long
back where they
people
gotta
stay.
be.
Yeah.
Best
So
as
the
well,
parade
45
starts-
would be long.
What,
At 11.
11K.
what about, is noise bylaw in town? I'm not familiar with,
7.
7 to 11.
7, okay.
I think that Rocky Mountain Drift, I'll make the motion that the Rocky Mountain Drift Club can pick their start time, providing that they're finished before the parade starts in the morning.
Giving the people enough time, yeah.
Yeah, we wanna
I don't
participate in
know
the
if you-
parade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
then,
important to you.
and
Yeah.
then participate, you
Yeah.
gotta give yourself enough time to.
And have included in your motion that, written permission is brought to the town from the owner of the.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You'll have all that.
So-
Put in your motion.
For parking and
For use of that
spectators,
land.
perfect,
Because you're gonna have people
Specifically.
parking on it and
right,
people wandering on it, people parking on it, and it's private property.
Yep,
So
you
we
bet.
would need a letter brought to Marion from Mike.
Okay.
Saying that that's okay for that morning.
perfect.
So that I would
And I'm
make-
sure he'll cooperate, it's just.
Yeah, we wanna have everybody
Yeah.
So I
covered.
would make a motion that we give Rocky Mountain Drift Club permission to host their sliding show, drifting show, providing a permission from Mr. Peckwick to use his land for parking and spectators. Start time to be determined by Rocky Mountain Drift Club, and time to give you enough time to get yourself into the parade.
Perfect.
That works.
That's-
Well
How
done.
are you gonna word that, girls?
Get all that?
She get it?
I'm awesome.
Part of this is, I would like to say that these guys really appreciate Clarso more than you guys can even know, because there's really no place for them to go. And we've been talked about all over the world. Our videos have been shared all over the world. We will have media there as well to document this and send it out. We just think that Claresholm is the place to be for cars. And whatever we are able to accomplish together, we can make happen. People will come. This is a perfect example.
I follow your Facebook page, and there's a lot of people that are from far away that just can't. There's some people, there's something else going on this weekend, some
Yep.
too, there, people are like debating with the Carson here. They're
It's professional spec D in Edmonton,
That's it.
and we got people from from Vancouver that are gonna come to us. So it's awesome. That's more than we ever thought would happen.
Just one other thing I'd like to suggest be part of the motion is that we be listed as an additional insured. I realize we are on there, but I believe it should be part of the motion
It's
for liability.
For the you're a liability insurance?
I submitted that with my letter,
Yeah.
and I think you guys are already
We just have to include it in
I'm
our
just saying
motion.
Oh,
it should
okay.
be-
Perfect.
It should be part of the
Just,
motion.
just
That it-
clarifying.
sure.
And we can have that too.
There you go.
No, okay.
They're so much smarter than us, aren't they?
Thank goodness.
And we'll just count down the clock until they're ready. I went out and watched some of the drifting a couple weeks ago. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Even in that, like in your track on that concrete pad, how they can control it to go in,
Yeah.
some of them.
Yeah, you know, the guys, it's not as easy as it looks, and I'll attest to that. I thought, yeah, I can do that. I put a couple dents in my car, and it's good. It's fun.
Yeah, it looks like a lot.
It's a lot of fun, and it doesn't have to be expensive fun. It can be cheap, and we make sure they're safe. We check all the vehicles. We have strict rules that have to be abided by, and we haven't. In all honesty, we haven't had to ban anybody for misconduct or any of that stuff, because they just all love to be there, and they don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to miss
Ties
it.
are put together with ties,
Yeah.
zip ties. Something.
Oh, I did talk to Mike, and Mike said that he was willing to come by and sweep the streets for us, just to make sure, one, safety issue
Yeah,
with debris.
rocks flying.
Right, that is our biggest concern, is we will be out there with brooms as well to touch things up, but also afterwards to clean up, make sure that there's no debris left on the street or afterwards.
Yeah, we'll
So-
make sure we remind them.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I gotta be there.
And if anybody hasn't been out, come out to any weekend we're running and bring a helmet, and if you don't like to share a helmet, bring a helmet and come for a ride. You guys will love to take you for a ride.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did that.
Yikes.
I'd do it.
Yes, I'll
It's
So
go.
I'll bring a helmet.
This one.
Are you girls ready over there?
Yes.
Sorry for making a long-winded motion.
You were always gonna wait.
I know.
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to allow the Rocky Mountain Drift Club to host an event during Claresholm Fair Days on Saturday, August 11th on 2nd Street East between 43rd and 47th Avenue to pick their start time to have their event concluded prior to the parade, that they have written permission for the use of private property along 2nd Street East for spectators and parking, and that they provide proof of insurance naming the town of Claresholm as an additional named insured.
Very well. Clear as
Yes.
mud. Thank you. All in favor? I guess that's carried.
Awesome, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all out. Like I say, anybody wants to come for a ride, I'm more than happy.
I'll take you up on one of these.
Awesome, thank
Thanks
you.
for what you
Thanks,
do,
Jason.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Jason.
Can we move that chair over there so that everybody can see? That-
Okay, first up, correspondence. Awesome. From the Honorable Shay Anderson, Minister of Municipal Affairs, submissions for 2018 Minister Awards for Municipal Excellence. Marion, you've got nothing, that's just information, correct?
Yes, we submitted an application for our Risk Reduction Community Coalition Program to the 2018 Ministers Award for Municipal Excellence, but we were not selected to
We're not
receive the
selected yet.
award.
Okay. We'll move on to the Honorable Ricardo Miranda, Minister of Culture and Tourism. The Stars of Alberta Volunteer Awards. And this is looking for nominations, I believe. But it's an information, I mean, you guys can read it over. 3, Alberta Municipal Affairs 2017-18 Annual Report. Again, that's information. Number 4, Town of Claresholm, letter of support for expanding the Southern Alberta Trade Corridor. Now, I think you're all familiar, we spoke about this before. This is trying to get the border open 24 hours. And it would improve tourism for that region. It would improve trucking for that region. I mean, they're part of the same alliance we are with
Alberta Southwest.
Alberta Southwest. And I think it's a prudent thing to do is to give them a letter of support, but that's just my feeling. Does anybody have any comments on it?
I read it, thought it said.
Yeah. I'm a council for the Alberta Southwest Economic Development. I think it's really important because not only are we bringing more people in from Montana, we have a different triangle now. BC, Alberta, and Montana have a group economic thing that we're working on, and I think it's really important that we support this.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's the right thing to do because I know myself and lots of my friends, if we're going to be running late, we go over Sweetgrass.
I move that we write a letter of support.
Okay. Green?
Moved by Councillor Kirsch to write a letter of support towards the Town of Cardston's initiative to increase services at the Carway border crossing to 24 hours a day with full processing of commercial truck traffic.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence, Pincher Creek Fair and Rodeo. We have the list we approved, did we not?
We do plan to attend the Pincher Creek
They
Parade.
were on it?
We're looking for staff to take the vote that day.
Is Mel not able to?
He's not able to that day.
Okay. Number 6, Alberta Recreation Parks Association Professional Development Workshop. This is again information. Getting lots of things. Number 7, Claresholm Public Library letter of support for a CFAP grant. Mary?
So the library is applying for a CFEP grant. They want to replace the carpet and flooring throughout the building as well as their HVAC system. So as the owners of the building, it's registered to the town, so they're looking for a letter of support for that application.
I make a motion.
Councilor Schleifer. Question?
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to write a letter of support towards the Claresholm Public Library's application for the Community Facility Enhancement Program grant for the purpose of replacing the carpeting flooring throughout the library and to replace the HVAC system.
All in favor? Carried. Correspondence, John Barlow, Ride to the Horizon fundraiser. I suppose he's looking for sponsorship. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but personally I don't think taxpayer dollars should be used for sponsorship, so if any, to me, if any of you are interested in sponsoring personally, that's the way I would recommend, but that's just me. You guys, what do you guys feel about it?
Personal, shouldn't be town.
Yeah, I don't think it should be tax dollars. Okay, so we take this for information. Boy, we're just roaring now. Number 9, Gerald Knowlton, CPR steel caboose 434426. That's the caboose that sits beside the cabin at our museum. And we're having a letter requesting that we sell it, which I personally think is a terrible idea. What's the feeling at the table?
I
We
just-
own it, right?
Yeah, I can't believe you can't find another one.
We bought it.
Yeah.
Town of Clarkson,
Jesus.
well, actually, it wasn't the Friends of the Museum back then, but it was a museum organization, arranged for it, hauled it in, and did the crane work to put it where it is. So it belongs to the town of Clarkson.
Yeah, I'd like to see it repainted, but
Yeah,
I don't wanna
restore
see
but
it
not
gone.
taken away.
I don't fancy it going to another town.
So we just take this for information? We don't need to make a motion to say no, or,
No, we'll just send a letter back, just saying we're not interested
Yeah.
in selling it.
yeah, we don't need a motion for that, good. It was an interesting letter.
It was.
Ken,
Yeah,
blame him for
Ken,
trying,
yeah,
right?
trying.
Yeah.
We're still gonna say no, right?
Yeah. Request for decision policy community advertising program. We gotta find it.
That's where it is.
Okay, this is it. This is, all about, the big billboards and everything on the way into town and, cleaning them up and expanding them and,
Making them more like Nanton's, like that shows actual businesses.
well, it would be great if they looked more like Nan's or the one at John Deere. Marion, you wanna say something before I carry on?
It's okay, I can just speak to this if you want me.
Well, you go ahead and speak and then I want to.
I'll just give you an overview. So the Economic Development Committee has been looking at how they can get exposure on the highway corridor for businesses. And so one of the ideas that they came up with was some advertising, billboard advertising, or, you know, perhaps highway signage of some kind that we can help facilitate on behalf of the businesses. So the idea would be that we lease space and that we sublease then that down to the businesses. There's a number of businesses who have shown interest, I believe 7 currently. And the intent of this policy would that it would be a partnership between the town and the businesses, but the businesses would cover the cost of the advertising. So our time and investment would be just basically administrative. They would pay, the businesses would pay for the cost of the signage and whatever our lease costs were for the space that we'd be using. So we believe that the Economic Development Committee believes, that it's, you know, a good way to give exposure for our downtown businesses. And the policy is very clear as to what businesses would actually qualify to be able to participate, because it is intended to drive traffic into the community.
So who owns the billboards?
Well, there's some on the north end of town that are privately owned. They've also looked at perhaps on the sides of buildings that are on the Highway 2 corridor, that there could be possibility for additional signage there, or on private land there, it just depends. The policy itself is more general, not specific to any one billboard.
So we're going to, the idea, the purpose, so I understand this, is we're gonna get a billboard and make it so that all of the smaller places, because most people can't afford a big billboard. So we're going to make it smaller so everybody can afford a little piece of it.
That's right.
So are you gonna make sure we have enough businesses to cover one whole billboard, or are we just gonna buy the billboard?
No, we wouldn't be buying the billboard.
The space, I mean,
We would be
yes.
leasing the space.
Lease the
We would
space,
lease the
correct.
space, and we
Yeah.
would make sure that we had businesses who were interested in subleasing that prior to us making that investment.
But you're going to select who is allowed to get the space.
Well, we would select them based on the policies, so they have to have a business license, they have to be, I believe they can't be more than 10 kilometers from town.
Okay.
They can't be a home business. There's there's some criteria in the
Okay.
policy. So they would be selected based on that, so we wouldn't preclude a business unless they didn't fit the policy.
Okay.
So we're hoping to, by partnering, like you said, being able to allow those businesses to have some highway exposure where they wouldn't be able to do that if they were doing it on their own, because there may be 3 to 4 businesses that are advertising on one billboard.
So are we just gonna get one billboard when it's full and we have enough
Then we would,
people,
then we would
businesses?
move to a
Then you'd buy
second.
another one?
Correct.
But we're not gonna get more than we have
Correct.
because, perfect,
Correct.
okay, answers my
And
question.
my only problem with this is, Claresholm's getting a reputation for the junkiest looking southern Alberta driving into town from those god-awful billboards we have at the north end. And I hear comments when I go to different functions in other towns all the time about it, how bad it looks coming in. And for the town of Claresholm to go and endorse that and rent one of those god-awful billboards and put businesses on it, I just think, you know, the ones in John Deere, there's some good dressed up ones there, they're privately owned also. You know, if it was something that was decent looking, but those ones out there are atrocious. I mean, they're old telephone poles, there's holes in them, the lighting is falling off a couple, they just are very unpresentable, and
Right.
for me, I just think we should be getting rid of them, not endorsing them. But I would like to see some businesses advertised, but just not on that kind of rickety contraption out there.
Maybe that could be one of the conditions. If you rent one of their billboards, they have to make it presentable.
The quality of the space.
That's
Yes,
correct.
we definitely would want to ensure that.
That
it's
would
quality
ensure-
space, and
Yeah.
it would clean up the area, not
Right.
deter.
Yeah,
from
no,
the-
So
but
that
I
would be
like to
beneficial
see-
then.
Before I would vote in favor of it, I would like to see the quality first. I just can't, well, you can't speak from the floor, but I just can't see endorsing, myself, I can't see endorsing those raggedy signs we have out there.
We can leave it up to the discretion of the economic development officer. That is his job, to make sure that things are done correctly. And that's one good way of making sure that those billboards are cleaned up.
But are they gonna, if the owner, my question is, would the owner be willing to clean them up? There are a couple out there that are in decent shape, but I don't know if they're empty or not.
Well, that would be a condition that would be laid upon them.
I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see first, you know, some negotiation with the owner of those billboards and see if they will be cleaned up. I've said my piece, so whatever you guys agree to, whatever you wanna do,
I just couldn't figure out why we would lease them and sublease it.
just to make it a point.
Why, you know, why wouldn't, if there's 7 people that apparently are into it, why just don't those 7 people go? Like, why are we pimping?
That's a very good
Well, we're
idea.
just-
Yeah.
Like,
We're a catalyst to get them there.
right, but why can't the 7 of them get together and lease the board? Like, why are we,
Because Brady would be doing all the work to make
Yeah,
that
because
happen
that's
anyways.
part, it would save them all the
And
work
then
that
it's
they're
gonna-
not.
Part of
supposed
our
to do.
job as
creative control, ensuring that it looks a
oh,
certain standard.
I get that, but I mean, I'm just looking at it like from a town, like,
'Cause
why
I don't
doesn't,
think
why
they
doesn't,
would.
why doesn't the chamber buy one and lease it out to businesses?
That's a
Why
very
does the
good
town
point.
not
Nobody
do
wants
it?
to,
Very good
they won't
point.
sell them. He won't sell
Mhm.
them.
No, but why doesn't the chamber lease it and sublease it? Why do we have to sublease it?
That's a
Or
good
not.
point. Mhm.
EDC is.
Well, it's the
Still
town.
tax-
It's still the taxpayer money, right?
I think the concept is good, I just.
I do too, I think it's great, I just,
I'm not in favor of
Hmm.
the
I
location.
think, if I remember back, there was conversation that the lighting would be repaired. Am I correct on that? So doing that, the quality of the printing and the cleanup on it was being controlled by EDC, so the presentation value was much improved to take that, what is now a little bit of an eyesore, and turn it into something that is actually attractive coming into town.
Can we get that in writing from the developer?
Under part of that contract,
He's responsible for keeping it up.
yeah,
He does not keep them up now,
No.
so.
yeah, but that puts it to task as well, right? So,
Yeah, to me, that's the hurdle, is he doesn't maintain them now.
They need to be made out of steel, don't they, or
Well-
something that's more, less
I
flexible.
like the idea, I just think it'd be cheaper for the businesses if those people got together and
Yeah.
did on their own.
Well, it's the administration part that,
Very good.
Brady would be doing the administration. So it would save them some cost, and it would give them incentive to do it. The concept I'm great with, it's just the
So-
condition of it.
You get 7 this year, and then let's say next year 2 people don't want to, so those 5 gotta pick up what those other 2 left, or do
Or
they
they
get the
let the
same
lease
rate?
go. Or they let the lease go for the year. If they can't fill it, I'd say you'd let it go, right?
Is that what would happen, is if it's either gotta be full or no-go?
Yeah, it's
There's no-
designed to be no
No
physical
profit,
cost to
but no cost.
EDC. It's a break-even point. I like the idea of having that advertising available, potentially drawing people off the highway and improving the visual as you come into town versus, because I will agree with you that right now, they need to be resheeted and so on in order to.
Oh, they need so much work.
Yeah, but they're not going to be repaired without being rented at the same time, right? So unfortunately, it's in a catch-22, either they disappear or they get utilized. I think it has potential to be a good benefit for the small businesses downtown. And I think to run it as a 1 or 2 year pilot project to see the viability of it would be a worthwhile endeavor.
Yes. I think if we can get a letter from a letter saying they'll fix it.
There's something in that lease contract, if I'm aware.
I could get on
Or
board
at
with
least
a pilot project,
Yeah.
Well,
providing that if we're paying to lease, providing it's full. If it's not
Oh, that's
full,
what
we're not
they
paying.
mean.
That would have
That's
to
gotta-
be a
that's gotta be
stipulation.
stipulated.
It's gotta be
Yeah,
full.
it's full, but,
Yeah.
like, if there is it in the lease, I'd like to see that before I vote in favor of it.
So we need more information before we can really do anything with this.
Yeah.
We need confirmation and making sure that the board is going to be full, so
Well, the
that there's
board
no
full or
cost
not?
to the town.
But if you can bring us the guarantee that it will be fixed before money's put into it, I'd vote in favor of it, but I personally won't support it unless I know that sign's gonna be fixed up, because I've seen them stick signs on some of them that are barely holding the sign up. It's just the nature of that.
Wouldn't it be a stipulation or a condition of the contract? You have the contract?
yes.
And is it? It is, yeah,
I'd like to see it.
so.
So we'll be lucky to do that.
Who enforces it?
Well, it's up to you guys. I'm setting my feet.
More information.
I don't know, even to
I
just
make-
paint the logo on one of them would be cool. Just,
No, we don't want the town, the town's got its own sign.
yeah.
Yeah, this is for the businesses.
It's not to do with the town. It's the promotion of the businesses in the town, which I'm fully supportive. I just, those signs scare me. I can just see us putting a bunch of money into it
And then
and
falling
falling down.
apart.
I think Craig brought up a very good point, though. Either the Chamber of Commerce should come up to the table for this is the businesses that are looking for this, or we should make sure that maybe the businesses themselves should get together as an entity and go together. Then
I
the
think
town's not on the
very-
hook for it.
I think the idea behind this from the Economic Development Committee is part of the Economic Development Initiative is to facilitate success of businesses. And so
Downtown.
this is just one of the ways that they can perhaps facilitate without a cost to the town other than our administrative costs for that
It's exposure for fresh air.
coordination.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning more that way as long as it doesn't
Can we,
cost us
um,
anything.
And from.
Table it for,
just
till the next.
for one other thought, just before we go. From a business perspective, if you're driving into a community and you see a group of businesses advertising together, working together, that signage as you're coming into town implants that perception that that's a town that's working together, that those are businesses wanting each other to succeed. And when I see that walking into a town or driving into a town, I see a town that wants to move ahead. I see a town that's working cohesively, and whether it's the barber shop or the hardware store, they're working together to bring people down together. And that's why I would push for this to go ahead.
Yes.
I was just hung up on who was footing the bill. I just didn't want it to cost.
It's a town break even, it's a break even to the town, and that's, I'm
But-
fine with that.
But it can't be restricted to downtown businesses.
No, it's not.
It has to be
10-kilometer
for
radius.
anybody.
With brick and mortar too,
Mhm.
so.
I'll make the motion that we move forward with it, to adopt the policy CEDC 0718. Can it have the caveat, with the caveat that the structure itself be aesthetically appropriate?
Yeah, you can put anything you want.
Okay, with that.
Marion.
Marion.
I want to hear what's
Do you want us to also add to the policy, and I'm sorry, just a clause related to the billboard must be full
Yes.
before,
Yes.
Yes.
before it's
Sorry,
Before
subleased?
release, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we can add that into the policy.
Great.
that's part of your motion too.
Yes, it is.
And that.
And that.
Okay, so we want that.
You got away with words, please.
Thank you.
As amended.
She's on that.
To say.
She only has to say 3 words.
I was reading that, I like it. I just
I
didn't
like
want
it.
I just didn't want to be footing the bill, and I
I
didn't
like what
put
Gavin
stuff
said though, having our logo on one of those billboards, I think would look,
Because he does
it's
it.
good, I like our
I
logo,
would-
I think it's beautiful, and it says we're,
It's better than blank.
Oh.
and Colin's art.
Are you okay?
Size 13.
Congrats. Are we anywhere near?
Yeah.
Oh, question please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to adopt policy number CEDC 0718, the community advertising policy as amended, effective July 16th, 2018, with the stipulation that the structure being used is aesthetically pleasing.
Boy, you're long.
And.
All in favor?
Oh,
No, and it has to have be
And it's gotta be
full.
full.
Well, that's why we
Alright.
said as amended.
But that's amended.
Oh.
They said that.
The
Okay.
policy is
Yeah.
as amended.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then she
Okay.
will add that stipulation into
Oh,
the policy.
got it.
Okay.
You guys all missed that, huh?
Yeah, we did.
Huh.
I'll admit I did.
Okay, shall we hear it one more time, please?
I just was changing the stipulation. Sometimes when I read it, I kind of ad lib and then I have to fix it after.
Oh, now we're making you.
Okay, moved by Councillor Schultz to adopt policy number CEDC 0718, the community advertising policy as amended, effective July 16th, 2018, with the stipulation that the structure being used is aesthetically pleasing.
And structurally sound.
Yeah,
One
I'm
thing
not
is
liking the
pretty
aesthetically
sound.
pleasing.
Right, I
No.
want it to look good visually, but has to be
Right.
Structurally sound.
Yeah, I think structurally sound looks
most
better.
important.
Yeah, more important than anything, if it blows down a week after we do it.
Right, thank you. for the
Okay,
good
so
work.
everybody understands it?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion as read? Carried. That didn't take long. Camping request, the softball tournament. Every year at Fair Days, we have a softball tournament, and they are requesting to camp on the back of the Agriplex lease. Marion, you wanna throw something in there?
Yes, so the tournament is scheduled for August 10th to 12th. They do have permission from the Agriplex to use the location, and I have confirmed that. We haven't had any problems with this before. They clean up their garbage, they know about the quiet hours. You know, it's a great activity in the community for that weekend, so administration's recommendation would be that we approve it again for this year.
Any questions, or?
Nope, I approved that. Move
Councilor
that.
Burge?
Move it, yes.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Kurz to approve the use of the area west of the Claresholm Agriplex for camping for the Fair Days Ball Tournament, August 10th to 12th, 2018.
All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, 8th Avenue West pavement. Oh, this is, yes. Marion?
So in 2013, the town entered into an agreement with South Cal Developments, and there was some infrastructure put into 8th Street that extended to the north end of the West Middle School. And that's part of our, on our financial statements, we show that responsibility of the town. We pay them $100,000 a year for 8 years. But one of the other stipulations in that agreement was that when the final lift was done on the pavement, that the town would pay $120,000 as our share of that cost. They have approached us this year and said they're prepared to do that pavement, and they want to ensure that the town has the funding available. So we have assured them, because it's by way of agreement, that we've already committed to those dollars. Obviously, that's not included in the budget because we weren't aware of that, but we do have that commitment. So there is money available in federal gas tax fund would qualify, MSI qualifies, land and development capital reserves, or our general capital reserves is where we would have that money available. We're not recommending that we use the federal gas tax fund because that's one of the grants that doesn't have minimum requirements, so we can do some of our smaller projects under that grant. So our recommendation is that we need a resolution of council to approve the out-of-budget expenditure if they move forward with the pavement. It's very clear that it would not be issued until the pavement was done, and that it either be taken out of MSI or one of the capital reserve accounts.
I would suggest it be taken out of MSI just because there's 700 in that. Just over 100 in any of the other.
Aren't we giving 460 that MSI grant to the arena?
And yes, a portion of that is going to.
So that leaves us a little bit less.
Because of the items further along that came in so far over tender,
Mm-hmm.
is it possible to slip this down, to table this, number 12 until we get through the, when we talk about the tenders that have come forward?
Well, we can table it, but
And talk about it
whether or
then,
not
but-
we move forward with those tenders this year, I believe that the intent would be that we would still fund them through MSI, so we would still carry that MSI money forward, even if we carry those projects forward into
So we still-
2019. So we wouldn't have a cost savings there in MSI.
I'm just thinking 1 year free up, then
Yeah.
it's time to raise it
But
for next year.
it's all out of the same pool of funds,
Well, it
right?
is all out of
So
the same.
eventually that, if we move forward, when and if we move forward with those projects, we're gonna need that MSI money.
Well, I would, I guess we're gonna have to, we have no choice. It's a long-term commitment, whether it happens this year or not. But I would think we should fund it out of our reserves and save our
Just
MSI, because
say
we have so many big projects. going on right now.
capital reserve.
That would be something I would throw out there.
And they're doing it this year for sure?
No, not for sure.
It should have been set aside for reserves to begin with.
It should have been set aside years ago in reserves, but it wasn't. Well, and it may have been, we don't know what's in those reserves, why they were set aside, so maybe,
And they want to complete it this year for sure?
no. There's no guarantee with them, they are saying they may do it this year.
But it'll hurry them up if they know the money's sitting there.
It'll put it on their radar.
And what we would do if it doesn't proceed this year is we would just earmark that at year end on our financials, that portion of those reserves we would set aside for that particular project if that's the resolution of council.
Yeah.
Okay. I
So
like
then
that.
it
Once
would
it's
be
earmarked, it should be left permanently.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm confused. You say here we have 705,000 in MSI, but minus 460 for the arena because they didn't get their grant, right? We promised them. So that leaves us 4, 5, 6, 240. So you're gonna give 120 to them.
No,
No, we're taking out of
Capital
reserve.
it's out of the capital reserve.
So I'm saying if you did take it out of MSI, right?
So,
This-
Because we seem to be spreading our MSI grant really thin.
Well, that's why
We're not
we're not going
gonna
to.
do that.
Craig's got a motion.
if you have any more questions, so.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I move that we approve the out of budget expenditure for the 8th Street paving in the amount of $120 to be funded out of the general capital reserve. And if it doesn't get paid this year, earmark it so that it's there for next year,
Alright.
and we're not,
Yeah, we're scrambling
Yeah.
again.
I guess we can leave the scrambling part of the motion.
Well, sounds kinda cool.
So I guess I move to approve the out of budget out of general capital reserve in the amount of $120,000.
Did Corinne make sense of all that?
Yes, I did. That's why I just added that. I do not know. What do you set aside for 20 minutes?
There'll be a minute.
No, that's fine, I just wanna make sure that it was here.
And that's what should have, it might have been there before, but we've never done that, and that's something that Mary was correcting. And it's a good thing you pointed it out, because then it's there forever, yeah.
In reserves, this project.
Okay. Alright?
Ready?
Yes.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to approve the out-of-budget expenditure for the town's agreed-upon portion of the 8th Street paving project to be completed by South Cal Developments Inc. in the amount of $120,000 to be funded out of general capital reserves, and to stipulate that if the project does not proceed in 2018, the money be allocated in reserves for this project.
Sounds good. All in favor? Carried. Number 13, request for decision, intermunicipal development plan. Marion?
So the modernized Municipal Government Act is now requiring that all municipalities have an intermunicipal development plan. And that's part of the process leading up to our intermunicipal collaboration frameworks as well. So we have until 2020 to have our IDP completed. We have talked to CAOs. The MD of Willow Creek, how the legislation is written is that every municipality that has adjoining borders must have an intermunicipal development plan as well as an ICF. So in discussions with the MD, as you can imagine, they have a number of intermunicipal development plans that they need to complete. And so we looked at this as doing it regionally and applying for a community partnership grant. So we met with Old Man River and Old Man River Regional Services Commission, sorry, I should explain that. And we had them put a quote together for us to do that work. So the town of Staveley has agreed to be the managing partner for an application under the Community Partnership Grant. And that grant, we're hoping, will cover the cost or a portion of the cost of 5 of these IDPs that the MD needs to complete, one being the town of Claresholm. The amount for the town of Claresholm and MD of Willow Creek's portion of this would be $10,500. Half would be funded by the MD of Willow Creek and the other half funded by the town of Claresholm. If the ACP grant is successful, then those numbers would be reduced accordingly based on what we get from the grant. The reason we're bringing it forward now is because of the deadline of 2020, and it will take some time to go through public consultation and actually writing these plans. The intermunicipal development plan must look at future land use, proposals for future development, provisions of transportation systems in the area, coordination of intermunicipal programs relating to the physical, social, and economic development of the area, and environmental matters within those areas. So that's on the fringe of all of the urban municipalities. So as you can imagine, there will be a lot of work that goes into this. So in order to meet our 2020 deadline, we're recommending that we move forward with this project. The timeline for ours is in your package, and we would be done by October of 2019, which gives us about 6 months leeway. I believe the deadline is April of 2020 when the legislation was passed. So our recommendation, there's two recommendations. First, that we support Stavely's grant application to the Alberta Community Partnership Program. And then the second is that we move to accept the proposal from Old Man River to complete the intermunicipal development plan in the amount of $10,500, with 50% of that portion of the towns coming from our general reserves.
Would you like to make the first motion?
I can make the first motion.
Councillor Moore? Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Moore to support the town of Stavely's grant application to the Alberta Community Partnership Program and to participate in the program for the completion of the intermunicipal development plans with the MD of Willow Creek.
All in favor? Carried. Second motion.
I'll move it.
Councillor Ashford. Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schlossberger to accept the proposal from the Old Man River Regional Services Commission for the town of Claresholm / MD Willow Creek intermunicipal development plan in the amount of $10,500 plus GST, with the town of Claresholm and the MD Willow Creek to share the costs 50% each, with funding to be allocated from general reserves in the Alberta Community Partnership Grant.
All in favor? Carried. Next on the list. 14, request for decision. The Claresholm Public Library lease agreement is up for renewal. Marion?
So the building, the library building is owned by the town, and the board has a lease agreement with us. In November 30th of 2017, that lease expired and it was overlooked. It came to our attention because they are applying for the CFEP grant and they have to have a current lease. So I apologize for that. The contract at the time was had a renewal clause in it for an additional 5-year term, and they would just like to exercise that portion of the lease agreement. So our recommendation is to approve the renewal of the lease agreement for the additional 5-year term.
I can make that motion, Councillor Mayor.
Moore? Question.
Moved by Councillor Moore to approve the renewal lease agreement with the town of Claresholm Public Library Board effective December 1, 2017 for a 5-year term.
All in favor? Carried. 15, request for decision. 2018 capital infrastructure project roads. This is a biggie. Marion?
So we've discussed this project frequently because originally we had 3 roads proposed to be paved in the 2018 budget. When the engineers did their preliminary look at that, they anticipated that our budget would not be sufficient, and so we reduced that. We reduced it down to 2 roads and took out Saskatchewan Crescent. We also recognized at that time that there was some sanitary sewer repairs that needed to be done on one of the streets, and so that was included in the tender. The tender is now closed on June 28th, and the tender for those projects came in substantially over budget. So we originally had $380,000 budgeted. We only had 1 contractor bid on the project, and it came in at $560,512. We think that there's a couple of reasons for that. First is just the size of the project itself, and mobilizing and demobilizing for businesses when they're really busy this time of year, and then the late tendering of that. So our recommendation, because of the bid coming in so high, that we can possibly combine this with, and we're going to talk about the next item on the agenda, and do a re-tender in the fall for these projects to actually be completed in 2019, and see if we can get some better pricing on that. So our recommendation is that we do not accept the 1 tender that we received, and that we defer those and re-tender in the fall.
Where do we get our original numbers from? Like, why are they so far? Like, I understand you always got like your cost plus whatever, but
What's the time of year? Once it gets to a certain time of year, contractors go on book for this whole year, and then you get a small contract like this in there, so they'll throw in a figure that if they get it, it's quite profitable, and if they don't, they don't care. And that's where we're falling in a gray area where these companies aren't looking for work, and that's why we only got one tender.
Ideally, we would like to have our budgets approved by December so that we can tender in January. And with the election year, that didn't happen.
Oh, okay.
And so our tenders went out later.
A little bit later, okay.
And,
That's our fault.
That's fine.
so by doing this,
I'll
you know,
leave it.
we've got a couple of projects that we can possibly postpone.
I'd like to see this thrown back to the appropriate committee with the other ones, and then FIPSI can sit down and look at this one and the next project, and maybe next year's projects, and then formulate a new plan.
Prior to it being tendered.
Yeah. So if it, I would like to see it personally referred back to FIPSI,
To 2019 discussions.
but that's just like.
Can I just ask a question? Are there any towns or municipalities that have their own paving equipment or crew?
Not that I'm aware of, but it might be, well, it's not even city of Calgary.
Sorry, I missed the question. I was talking.
Does any town have its own paving crew?
Not a town of our size, I'm not aware of.
Yeah. Pretty expensive equipment.
So my question would be, are we keeping that 380,000 in the budget for this project? And the second would be, can our sewers and streets withstand another year of being neglected? And what happens if the tenders come in the same? Are we gonna be able to do them next year?
We're gonna have to find a way. But that's something, that's why I referred it back to the committee, so we can study all those questions. I've already talked to Mike, and the roads will be fine. They'll carry over.
And the
But-
sewers?
But we've got to formulate a new plan, and I know from previous tender projects, when you're as late as we were tendering, you don't expect to get a great deal. Because they're not busy. When you're fresh, in the wintertime, you're tendering, you're at the start of their plate, and they're hungry. By the time we got our stuff out, they were full. And that's why, because it's still a substantial contract to only get one tender on. You'd think smaller companies would have jumped all over it, but they're all busy.
So my question is, are we going to keep that 380 earmarked for this particular project? And
Yes.
are we going to make sure that this is a priority? Our sewers and our roads are really important, and they're getting waylaid and waylaid and waylaid.
Well, it's number one in our priority list for the capital budget, so it'll move in back to FIPSI, and it'll still stay number one. And we will look at a combination of some other things that we were gonna do next year and put them together and tender it all as a package. It'll be bigger, more lucrative for the companies.
Exactly, it was $72,000 high,
Yeah, that's
over budget.
substantial. Marion, you want to say something?
That's a substantial amount.
Just one of the other things that'll happen at FIPSI then is when you're looking at, even if this does come in a little higher than what was budgeted, the 380,000, you need to look at what are the overall projects for 2018, 19, and 20, and are some of those projects able to be set aside so these priority projects can be updated? So
But this
that's
was- yeah.
why I think it's important that we don't just say, oh, the tender came in over budget, let's go ahead and allocate money from somewhere. I think it needs to have a broader view of that decision prior to it being made.
Okay, as long as it stays
But
on a
the money
priority
won't go away,
list.
the money will stay earmarked for capital budget.
FIPSI then goes back to budget again.
Yeah, it'll go back to the budget committee.
Back to
And
the
then
budget committee.
we'll study it and come up with we'll look at next year's priorities and we'll combine them and figure out a tender package for next January.
Well, I make a motion to not accept this tender and push it to next year.
Send it back to.
Refer it back to committee. Don't you refer this back to committee?
That's where it would be
Yeah.
discussed, yes.
Not the next year.
Oh,
Refer it
okay.
back.
I move that we do not accept this tender and refer it back to the committee then.
Does that make sense?
It says 2019 there, that's why I threw next year in there.
Well, that was, yeah, but we're gonna send it back to committee.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's hear the question.
Moved by Councillor Zimmer to not accept the tender for the 2018 capital infrastructure project roads and defer the project to 2019 with discussions to occur at the committee level.
Jones Law School.
She had lived.
Craig speaks well. Okay, all in favor? Next, same story,
This guy
different
was-
project.
This was way over too.
This was substantial. Marion, the sanitary store and replacement.
Yeah, so this is the sanitary sewer line that goes out to the lagoons. And the tenders came in, we did have 7 tenders received on that. But it was half again over what was originally allocated in the budget. So again, it's the same conversation about, you know, time of year and the size of that project. And so our recommendation again is that it go back, that we don't accept the tender and it go back for discussions at FIPSI to be included with tenders when we have more than just individual projects going on.
Get a better price so we're not overpaying.
I make that motion to push it off and move it to FIPSI. More conversation.
Once again, with it being prioritized, our infrastructure and our sewer system
Well, it's
are
all part of
really
the-
important.
You don't have to keep, it's part of the capital budget and it is the priority, so we don't just throw them aside when they don't come in tender. So it'll stay in the capital budget. We're
Well,
not,
we are putting
we're
it
not
aside
here
here.
affecting the capital budget, so. Question,
Who's making that motion, sorry?
please.
Oh, please.
Councilor Schultz.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to not accept the tender for the 2018 sanitary sewer replacement and defer the project to 2019 with discussions to occur at the committee level.
All in favor? Carried. 17, request for decision, legal fees, increase on budget. Gotta find it here. Oh, legal fees. This was due to more enforcement downtown. We've been trying to get the downtown cleaned up and the ongoing lawsuit with human rights complaint with Councilor Courage. So, Marion, is there any highlights to this?
Just with a review of the budget, we're currently slightly over what we had allocated this year. And we do have some additional enforcement work that we have ongoing and need to continue to do.
Yeah.
As well as, you know, providing legal counsel on other matters that are outstanding. And under the Municipal Government Act, I need a resolution of council for an out-of-budget expenditure. So we're requesting that we increase that by an additional $13,000 as we still have half a year left. And there's some
Basically double our.
ongoing costs.
Okay, would somebody like to make that motion to double our budget?
I get a question. Because we're already burnt through half of it, is the additional 13 we find sufficient?
Yeah, that was my question too.
I don't want to
That's
have
a good
another,
question.
I don't
Is
want to
it
have another
enough?
meeting
That's
4
a
months
very
ago.
good question.
Right.
I anticipate that it'll be sufficient, but unless some other matter arises, I would have to bring that back to council, but I
Best of your
anticipate that'll
knowledge.
be sufficient.
Or sufficient? That's a good question.
I just don't want another meeting.
Any other discussion? Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion
Councilor
to
Schultz?
approve the increased budget.
Question, please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to approve the increased budget for legal expenses of $13,000 to a total of $25,000 for the 2018 year to be funded from general operational reserves.
All in
That's-
favor? Question? That's the way it
No,
was read.
oh, no, I'm not agreeing question, I got still, I should have threw that in there.
Okay, let's do
Sorry.
this again. All in favor?
No, oh, no, I still have another. My question, I'm not calling a question, I have a question.
Okay, sorry, Craig.
Go ahead.
We'll back up the vote. Do you have one more question?
Yes,
Yep.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that should go up.
You only increase this year.
I don't think 13 will be enough.
But she can bring it back. And our administration is recommending it. I think they can do it for.
Don't you think we can stay out of trouble enough not
No,
to
no,
need
you-
more legal
you
costs?
You never know what happens, right? You talk about it now and then who knows what happens in a, isn't it better to have it there and not use it than need to have a meeting all the time about it?
Marion, what's your opinion of that?
Not necessarily. It's better to try and stay as close to budget as possible rather than to overextend. So, as I said, I think this is sufficient. If another or other matters arise that I determine I may need additional money, then I will come back to council for that.
Okay.
With what I see currently, I believe we're okay.
Well, that, the human rights lawsuit is halfway through. The enforcements are, most of them, they're over halfway, so I think you'll be fine that way too. I would agree with that. All right, question again, please.
Moved by Councillor Schultz to approve the increased budget for legal expenses of $13,000 to a total of $25,000 to be funded from general operational reserves.
All in favor? Carried. Okay, 18, financial report, statement of operations. This is information. Any questions? Resolutions?
We need a resolution to approve.
Oh,
We need a resolution to approve.
We need a motion to approve the financial statements.
I'll make that motion.
Questions?
Moved by Councillor Carlson to accept the consolidated statement of operations for the month ended June 30th, 2018 as presented.
All in favor? Carried. Number 19, information brief, resolution status. And then information items.
Are we going to ask something about the information briefs here?
Anything you want to
I know it says in progress here, and I don't know if anybody knows. How are is it looking good to move those speed signs at the south and north end of town?
We haven't had a response from transportation
Okay.
at this point that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That usually takes years.
Yeah, I've been asked by a few people where that's coming from, so I'm not going to the last.
I think it took 2 years to get Fort Miles, if I remember what Brent told me.
We got Jason.
Jason hasn't given me any updates lately, so my assumption is he hasn't heard anything.
Sounds good.
We need a motion to accept the information items.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor? Carried. And can we have a motion to go in camera, please?
I'll make the motion that we go in camera.
Councilor Moore? All in favor? Opposed?
Sorry.
Opposed?
No, I was,
Oh.
I I was still reading the last one.
Carried.
Somebody's opposing that.
I was still reading the last one.
Okay, we are in camera and, can we turn the camera? Okay, Councilor Schultz, you had
Come out of in camera?
Move to come out of it, camera.
all in favor of coming out in camera? Carried. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion
I'd
to
say
adjourn.
it would be Zimmer, he's right here in my face, just about hitting me. We are adjourned, we'll turn the camera off, please. You know you gave the finger on camera.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Okay, Councilor Schultz, you had
Come out of in camera?
Move to come out of it, camera.
all in favor of coming out in camera? Carried. Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion
I'd
to
say it
adjourn.
would be Zimmer, he's right here in my face, just about hitting me. We are adjourned, we'll turn the camera off, please. You know you gave the finger on camera.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.